for coming. We're going to talk about the Lidar web services today. I'm very happy to announce that I had a big technical breakthrough this past weekend, and imagine my relief when I finally figured that out 3 or 4 days before I was going to be presenting on it. So the good news is that things are moving along with the web services. They are not officially released yet, but you folks are going to be getting a sneak peek today, and of course, once I show you how to use it, you're going to be welcome to use it, but just know that there may be a couple more bumps in the road before we officially announce a couple weeks from now. So with that said, I also would like to throw out that both Leslie and my other coworker Steve have presented on web services. There's been a lot going on with web services this month, so I tried my best to not repeat anything that they've said, though I'm going to go over some of it, and also want to throw out that I do have some links to get you to their YouTube site, so you can review their presentations that I think will help fill in some of the blanks that I consciously did not try to redo today. So as I always do, real quick overview on what the Vermont Lidar program entails. It's a state plan under the umbrella of the Enterprise GIS Consortium, which is a kind of an umbrella of different state GIS-related departments and agencies to coordinate on all things GIS. And within that, we have what's called the Lidar Work Group, which has been I've been working with to promote the state Lidar program. We have some federal partners, some academic partners, and different state and nonprofit partners. So just like to give them a good shout out, and then thanking them all for sticking with us for the years to be able to get to where we've gotten to today. So with that, I'm going to jump right into Lidar Web Services. These are just like any other web services, but we are going to be focusing just on raster data today as it relates to Lidar. And you can access these services just like any other image service if you've worked with the ortho photos or some of the other services on our website or ANR's website over the years. You basically would add them the same way. There is some small differentiation within the image services depending on their source data. We're going to be focusing on the top one today. The mosaic dataset is the mechanism by which I have organized all of the Lidar data to get it to the point where you can then publish it into these services that we're talking about. And I've done that thematically, so by theme. This really just gives you a super fast, quick overview of Lidar data gets collected. We've got the point cloud. From that, they extract what this called returns, the first and last return, which just basically give us the elevation model or the surface model, like showing buildings and trees, tops, and everything else. Okay, I'm sorry. I got a little thing too. This one. Okay, great. Yeah, sorry, it's just getting rid of a little blackout spot there. Good, so hopefully that will help. That's right, so from the point cloud we get the elevation model, surface model, and when we subtract those two, we get the height of feature, or what's called the normalized digital surface model. And then from the DEM, we extract these 4 other different data sets. And I'm going through all of these because we plan to put these all as available as both image services and web services. And at some point soon here, I'll show you the kind of the overview of what we're doing between those 2 different types of services and kind of a status of where we're at. So real quick, just to give you a visual of all the data we're talking about as examples of what that screen is right there, I did have a, hold on, lost something here. There we go. So I already had made slides of this farm up in Richford and did it showing the ortho, the elevation model, the surface model, and this gives you an idea very graphically of what I'm talking about. And then the height of feature when we subtract the surface model from the bare earth elevation model. And we can get all kinds of useful derivatives like aspect, hillshade, slope, contours. This slide was made a while ago, so there's 2-foot contours in it, but we do have 1-foot contours now for 50% of the state, and eventually for the whole state here the next couple of years. And this is the overview I was talking about. I perhaps should have inverted the colors here, but what we have in red are what we've done. So we have all these products available on the hard drive. You can download most, all the DEMs are now up. We just recently posted the 2014, 2015. I think last week that went live. So all of our DEM data layers are up although there are different flavors of DEM. So some of them are up and some of them will be forthcoming. The surface model, I'm working on those now. Hillshade's up. Contours, you can download those now. And the other derivatives, this should have been half checked. There are a couple of Lidar collections where I don't have all of the derivatives out there, but I'm also working on those. Map services, haven't gotten that far yet. Image services, DEM, Hillshade's what we're talking about today. So it's done for the most part. We do have some finishing touches to put on it before we make it available and quote unquote expose it into the Vermont Open Geodata portal. So we're going to build some what's called cache on that to make it Google fast or Google-ish fast. So that's all going to take a couple more weeks, but we're essentially done with that. And that one's miscoded. It's not in the DEM's not in the interactive map viewer, but the Hillshade is. So that's kind of where we're at. And this graphic on the right shows that basically everywhere but this light green, we have data available of some what's called a quality level. Some of this in gray is a little bit older, not quite as accurate, but pretty darn good. And when you consider where we came from, I am just elated. I feel like I feel when I'm collecting everything out of my garden in September, and I'm glad all the work is done and I get to enjoy all the benefits, and that's where we're at with Lidar data finally. We've come from this coarse statewide available data like 8 years ago. This is what we have in the middle is available now. But we're closing the gap quick to have this level of data available for the whole state. And the accuracy is really quite an exponential improvement. We've gone from an average of 8 feet vertical accuracy to 4 inches, and horizontally it's even more profound. It's this stuff right here is 200 times more accurate than this and 900 times more accurate than this. So it's quite a leap. And that's all the stuff that we're going to be able to work with here and just pull into our ArcMap documents, into our custom ArcGIS Online mashups, or even our more evolved advanced stuff into our own applications and websites. So we have these source images here. Okay, this is all the DEMs, all the DSMs, all the Hillshade that is organized by tile because these things are so big. We put them in 1,400 meter by 1,400 meter tiles, and this construct of Esri's, the mosaic dataset, allows us to manage them all as a singular entity, which just makes life so much easier for people like me. And we can do that. We're doing it for contours, all these layers here, and then we can create a service from it, from these mosaics here. There's also this kind of crazy concept of what's called a reference mosaic, and we're going to be able to create reference mosaics for aspect, hillshade, and slope from the elevation mosaic, which basically means we don't actually have to physically have the aspect, hillshade, slope data and load it into a mosaic, because all of those layers are derived from the digital elevation model in the first place. So they have these they have the ability to create what's called a reference mosaic, which basically builds on top of that DEM information and allows you to look at slope, hillshade, and aspect. So it's a lot easier for me in terms of not having to like break out all those individual tiles for those 3 layers. It's also faster and just more efficient. And if we update the DEM, those automatically get updated as well. So it's just I'm talking back shop a little bit here, but that's just a little bit what goes in behind the scenes. So giving a visual on that, things got a little turned around here when we were messing with the content management system. but I think I can recover quickly. If you look at the raw data, these are all the individual tiles for this 2014 collection. There's 3,775 tiles, and we are able to get that all into a single mosaic data set, which is, bear with me for a sec, is right here. So we're able to put these things, you can see it's one mosaic data set, all these tiles that go into it, and voila, there it is. There's the 2014 collection, boom. And as you have experience with, Google Maps and our imagery and everything else, the way that we expedite it, make it draw faster, is we create these things called overviews. So they just give you different snapshots of the data. They start chunking it up as you go down. You can see these different levels over here, okay? So that's just how they make it draw a lot faster. So this is all the stuff that's been going on here in the back scenes for me, getting these services up and running. And that's what this slide basically tries, probably in vain, to explain. So I'm going to get a little technical, not for long, and I'm not going to go too deep, but just to give you a background on what happens when we take these individual DEMs, we put them in mosaics, and then we publish them up to these wonderful web services that we are going to be getting to quickly. And if anybody saw Steve Sharp's presentation just last week, then this is going to look really familiar because I stole them from him. But we're talking about the same thing, so that's why I thought it appropriate. So really, the method by which we talk with these web services, there's two different protocols and principles that are used to do that, and I'm not even going to begin to pretend that I know about these in detail, but these are the two predominant methods, and then you have kind of two different implementations of those methods. One's by Esri. We have the map services, which you author by throwing everything into a map document, and then you quote-unquote push it up and publish it as a map service. The second one is what we're going to be talking about pretty much exclusively today, dealing with raster data. And the third and fourth one there, you've probably seen them in our website. You can geocode process. You can enter in an address, and on our map, and it'll find it. That's what these geoprocessing services, geocoding services are about. No, there's the geocoding service. And then there's also the Open Geospatial Consortium, which has these different formats. We support the top two, the web map service and the web coverage service with our web services, and I'll show you where you can access those. So broad overview here, because I stole the slides. Again, we're dealing with mostly the ones in the second tier down, but we have all these different services that you can add, and they're, for most applications, it's a heck of a lot better than downloading data and adding it to your map document and symbolizing and putting the queries on and all this other stuff. You can just, boom, take what we've got and off you go. So the map service, yep, you just build an MXD and publish it. The raster data set, I've already explained that there's an intermediate step there. We put this all on a mosaic data set to manage it more effectively, and then then we hit the publish button. It goes up to an image service. And then there are these other ones too, so geocoding and geoprocessing. So just some general things to consider when you're thinking about using web services, map or image services. You can create all these custom maps with ArcGIS or QGIS. You're going to use them in a web mapping application. What kind of internet connection do you have? What kind of performance are you experiencing with the service? If you don't have a good internet connection, it will be faster to get the Lidar brick and access it that way. So it kind of depends on what you're trying to do, how effective these services will be. And I know it's easy for us sitting here in big buildings with big fat internet pipes to kind of forget about that sometimes. So the other things to consider are we have a certain life cycle policy. We basically guarantee these services to be up, a certain percentage of the time for normal business hours. We usually reserve nights and weekends to make updates. So, if what you really need to do is on a weekend, it's up most of the time. I can't tell you how much, but that's when things can get turned off while we work on them. So it's just something to consider. All right, so there are 3 primary ways of how you can find this data. You can go through our GeoData portal. You can add what's called ArcGIS server connection to your desktop GIS, and you can also just copy a URL for what's called the REST endpoint of these data layers. All right, and in ArcGIS, this is what it looks like. You go to add data. There's a pull down for GIS servers, and we'll do this. I'll show this in an ArcMap document, and then you just have to know this address to use. We do have a canned how-to on our website. I tried to find it right before we started. You could come up with that. I know Leslie knows exactly where it is. So that information is out there. But I also have a couple shortcuts and tricks that might help facilitate adding this data in the future for you as well. There's also, let's see. Oh, QGIS, I just mentioned it, so it's not to pretend to be too snobby about Esri products, but I've not done it with QGIS, but basically just explaining that it's pretty similar, all right? And from ArcGIS Online, you can also access the web services and, mash up your own map. So, and that's, I think, free for a certain level of service on ArcGIS Online, okay? So I'm going to dive now into how we can add this data. First, I'm going to do it within ArcGIS, and then show you ArcGIS Online, and then show how you can navigate to the ArcGIS Services directory and just copy the URL and pop it anywhere you want. Okay, so all right. Okay, so pretend that's not there. Okay, so if I say go to add data, all right, and drop down, go to ArcGIS servers, all right, add ArcGIS server. You want to use services, and again, these steps are all outlined in documentation that we already have on our website. Leslie, please correct me if that's not true, but we can dig that up right towards the end of the presentation. Okay. So then server URL, you just want to put in, oops, this right here. Oh, sorry, the slide shows live, so it's not going to let me copy paste, so that's okay. I'll just type it in. And you don't have to put in username or password since you're not doing anything crazy here. And then you'll notice that it comes up. See, I have a second one here now. I already had one. And if you double click on that, you just have to know to go into the Enterprise Geospatial Consortium Services. And then you have to know our naming convention. But you go scroll down a couple, and here you'll see IMG, VCGI Lidar, DEM, and Hillshade. I'm going to do the Hillshade because it's, pretty old. Actually, I'm going to do both. All right, so there you go. Now they've been added. I'm going to turn off the DEM because I know it takes a while to draw. But there's my Hillshade, and let me zoom out just a little bit. You can see how long it takes to refresh. So this is showing the whole enchilada, so it does, that's pretty good. We are going to cache this, so it'll be even snappier once we're done. That's one of those final steps I was talking about. And I'll just say that I did finally succeed at getting the Wyndham data to integrate with all this. There was an issue of projections, but I've got that, and I'm going to make the changes this weekend when we're off business hours. And so next week, if you add this service or refresh an existing connection to it, you're going to see Wyndham there. Then the only part that's going to be left is this green area right here, which was successfully flown. It was completed last November, so they're processing it now as we speak. Can't tell you when we're going to get it, but I'm hoping by next fall. So then we'll have whole state coverage, which will be sweet. So okay, with the Hillshade, you can manipulate this just like you can a lot of other raster layers. You can change the color. Hopefully better than that. I don't know if you've ever done this one, but you can remove pieces of it to change the color ramp, which is kind of useful, or not. I should have left that one in grayscale. Let's just go back to that. Okay. And same with the DEM. You can change the colors on that. I can also show you something pretty fun with the you can change. These are all made up of individual LiDAR collections. So if you know which one you want, if you pick the name, you can single out. I just happen to know this is the Barry Montpelier area. All of a sudden, oh wait, I didn't do it on the one I thought I did. All right, this won't take long. Here we go. See that? So another useful thing that you can do with the service, and once you limit it down to there, I'm going to show you in a moment other things that we can do to it as well. So I'm going to go over to, where'd it go? Okay, this is where I have to change browsers. ArcGIS Online, I'm going to actually do that one third, not second, because I'm going to copy paste this link into it. But from this address here, you get to our, well, here's the home address. It's just maps vcgi.vermont.gov/ArcGIS REST services. And that is, yep, that's the same one I used to add the ArcGIS server before an ArcMap, okay? And don't worry about this URL. You can write it down if you want. Probably wouldn't hurt, but we're going to post this all to YouTube, so you'll be able to access it. And there's some more information on our site about how to access that as well. But if you, again, know how to go into EGC services, and then we're going to go to Hillshade, where we end up is what's called the ArcGIS services directory. And you can see, remember I was talking about early on about REST and SOAP and WMS and WCS. So this is where you access all that if you wanted to use the Open Geospatial Consortium options here. But for this data here, it gives us some information, okay, some basic information. But all we have to do is click on the ArcGIS Online viewer, and you got to give it a second. I think it built some pyramids or representations of the data the first time. There you go. Okay, so it pops that in there. And now that you have one web map in there, you can keep adding more. I don't know why you have to do this, but if you hit Modify Map, you then get this dialog that will allow you to add other layers from the web. Okay, you could, if you go to our site and find some other web service, like say, I don't know, boundaries layer, or for example, let's see, we search for layers. I'm going to say Vermont deer wintering areas. There you go, Vermont deer wintering areas. Add to map. Now, there you go. Okay, so I hope the bells are going off in your head here that, oh, as long as there are services out there, you can just keep adding one on top of the other. Boom, boom, boom. You don't have, and then maybe you have some of your own custom data that you created while your field work or whatever, but really everything else is available to you pretty readily and pretty quickly. Well, not everything else. I don't have all the LiDAR for the whole state yet, but we're getting there. So hopefully that makes an impression that we get a whole lot of accurate data pretty quick. Okay. And if you had known the other way to actually add the data is to copy this, okay? And then we could have just gone to ArcGIS Online and then just added it. Oops, there we go. So you could say add layer from web, paste it in there, add layer, okay? We can do that for any of these in here. Well, let's do that for, let's do it for this one, okay? Copy, add layer from web, boom, see the images? There you go. You can just do this all the live long day. And I think, once you get an account, you can save the map too. So yeah, there you go. You can save it to your account. Yeah, you do have to have an account to be able to save it, but you can come in here and add this and play with it all you want. And if you don't care, you don't even need an account. So, all right, so those are the 3 ways we can add the data. Okay, probably the more profound way. I believe if you do this in one ArcMap document, I'm trying to think how you can get that to propagate through all your ArcMap documents. I believe, I don't know if it persists or not, but let me show you this one little tip and trick, okay? If you right-click and save as a layer file, and save it in your little layer file stash location that you probably have from contours or other layers, you just save it there, okay? And here, let me get rid of that. And then I can just add, I don't know if I can remember where it went. Yeah, here. Okay, then you got it back. And it maintains, it's still getting it from the same spot. You save it as a layer file. The layer file encapsulates the data source. So that's how it brings that back. So that's a really good, easy way to remember how to get this data back if you ever forget. If you save that layer file once, you've got it. And same with the DEM. You can do that as well, okay? So those are the 3 ways to add the data. ArcGIS, you can use ArcGIS Online for free. In a little bit, we'll talk about how you can pull that into, there's code out there, the freeware from ArcGIS API, JavaScript API. You can plug it into there and get all kinds of functionality, and I'll briefly hit that towards the end, okay? But what I'd like to move to now is showing you how you can adapt and analyze some of the services data. I'm going to focus more on the DEM for this, okay? I already showed you how we can put a, where'd it go? Definition query, okay, got that. So I'm going to zoom to this area here. Now here's a really powerful functionality that we built into it, and it's going to require a little bit of an explanation. When we first did this, I was like, it's a DM. It doesn't look like much. Maybe can we do something to make it look better? Just color ramp it, give it some kind of hillshade or whatever, because people are going to add this data and they're going to see these, gray shades, and it's going to mean much. The reason that we had to publish it like this is that if we tried to do anything else to it, if we tried to bake in any colors or hillshade or anything, once we publish that to a service, that would basically render it stagnant. basically from the user perspective, you wouldn't have been able to do what I'm about to show you that you can do. Okay, when you up in the Windows image analysis, it's a little hard to find, but you'll become friendly with this interface soon enough. You have to select the one you're working with here. You'll notice under processing, you'll see these functions. Okay, there's a function template. We're only going to work in the functions right here. And you can see what's happening is it's called a function chain, okay? And right now, this is the service, the base service here. We can insert a function to work on top of that data set to, as you can see, there's, I think, 35 of these, to get aspect, hillshade, slope. You can remap stuff. You can say find all elevation above 1,200 feet and make it 10 feet. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can actually get in trouble really easy, but there's so much functionality here. You have to understand what you're doing. You can't do certain functions on a source image service if it's not the right. I'm trying to say you have to do them in line. Like you can get hillshade from a DEM, but if you try to get hillshade from an existing slope service, I don't know what you're going to get. So we can apply this, and it'll spawn off a derivative data set. And look, all of a sudden we created a hillshade from that DEM service. So it's very similar to the actual DEM service, but the hillshade isn't the only thing we can do. We can do all kinds of things with this. Okay. So now if we go back and look at it again, we can do aspect, and it'll create an aspect map. And that's got some funky colors, so let's go change those. I don't know, something like this maybe. And now all of a sudden you can see the more southerly facing areas of the land surface. So again, this is that's why we did what we did. That's why when you get the DEM image service, it looks pretty bland, but we did it for a reason, and hopefully this will come in handy for you folks. Okay. You can also stack these, or what's called function chains. So you can do more than one. I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm going to save the time and show you how you can extract data from these services. And in essence, you could download data from the service. Okay, that's what I'm going to show you next. And so the advantage of that would be you can explore the data that you want without having to go check out our tile index map. You could do it by saying, I just want this town, and then select that area and download that data. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let me clean this up a little bit. Oops. I didn't mean to get rid of the hillshade. So I'll just bring it back. Well, here's another thing. If you just want to add one of these services to ArcMap, you don't even have to open ArcMap. It knows to add it to ArcMap. If you don't have ArcMap open, it'll open an ArcMap session for you. So you can see this. Should have added it. Oh well. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So it did add. All right. All right, so if you wanted to, again, we've got a query on this. So I get rid of that. It's going to give me everything. All right. Now, if I want to extract data from, I don't know, this corner of Berlin, all I have to do is right-click and say Data Export. So it's going to export data from this service to my local machine or your network, however. But here's something, the extent you have to be really careful of here, okay? You want to do it from the data frame, not the image service, because it'll try to download the whole image service and fail because there's a 2 GB limit on that, okay? So that's a pretty generous limit. You can pick which format you want. You can pick which name you want, okay? You can pick where you want it to go and save it. Right, you can see the status bar down here. Yep, I probably shouldn't have done that. It's building pyramids. Oh, good. It didn't listen to me anyway. So, okay. So there's the test. All right. There it is. That's all I downloaded was that area right there. Now I can right-click on that. Oh, no. I go to Windows, Image. I pick the right one. Boom, boom, boom. Hillshade. And get a hillshade out of it. Okay. There you go. That data is now residing in my local disk. You can also pull this data in and use it like any other data set. I created a little model here. And all it does is it takes a watershed polygon file that I had, makes a raster out of it. There's a function here called, what is it? It makes an image server layer. And then I use a con function, which basically says wherever this polygon exists, extract the elevation data. Okay, so maybe that's an overly complicated example of how you can use these image services just as an input, just as you can any other. And what I did was, again, just a different way of extracting data than using the data frame. I clipped it to this area here. All right, so I was able to extract pretty intricate data set. You know, you can do it by drawing tools as well, but I just wanted to demonstrate you could do it by a town boundary, watershed, what have you. Okay, so what we've really done, I've showed you how to add the data, how to extract the data, how to manipulate it with definition queries. You can change the symbology. I think those are probably the 3 or 4 biggest ones. There are a couple other things you could do, and when we make the PowerPoint available online, you could open that up, and I've got everything hyperlinked, so you could access some of the help online or do some searching yourself online to find out the other things you could do with image services, but those are the predominant ones. So what I'd like to do now is just do a quick. Let me finish that up by saying, with this data now streaming over the web, much like Netscape or Hulu or anything else, it's just except it's DEM data and Lidar Hillshade data and stuff like that. You can plug that into your website or your applications. And one thing, a good example of that, which unfortunately I've not had a lot of time to play with yet, but let me just highlight this for anybody who wants to see if they can make this hum. You can, Esri has a API for JavaScript that basically just provides a lot of templates for you. And here's an example of image service. Okay, so they give you the code. All right, and all you have to do, you do have to follow the JavaScript syntax well, which I don't know all that well, so I did not succeed at it trying to do it in the 15 minutes before the presentation. But there's this little thing down here where you can play with it in the sandbox. Okay, and just to give you an example, if you know what you're doing, you know how to do it, I just changed a little bit of code there, and now all of a sudden it's centering on Vermont, not Toronto. Likewise, if I knew exactly how to enter in our Lidar Hillshade or DEM services accurately into this JavaScript code, it would display as well. And I'm going to play with that in coming days and weeks. But I just wanted to point this resource out to everybody in case there's people who really want to take this and run with it. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to finish up by showing you a couple cool things that we have found so far that users have brought to my attention, and it's pretty neat when you think about it. So let me get oriented. Okay, so I'm going to focus on this area right here, and if you can see Ticonderoga here, you probably know where I'm going. But just consider going back to that slide where we used to have pretty coarse data statewide, and think about, this is about what we were able to see, 10 years ago. This is probably what we could see, statewide today. But what we're able to see now, and watch it, it's just going to appear like out of the mist, okay? See this feature right here? That's Fort Ticonderoga, which actually used to be a French fort called Fort Corleone a couple of years earlier. Look how that renders. It's pretty wild detail. Now, the cool story here is that I was talking with a coworker in ACCD who works with archaeology, Jess, and he's like, "Oh, zoom out, zoom out." And we went up here, and we saw these. Okay, and if I added a base map of imagery, you can see that. Let's see. Oh, that's not the imagery I want. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find the imagery I want super quick. But this is all forested. You couldn't see all this. So this was actually, yeah, here we go. Okay, you can't see that. So we actually kind of rediscovered the features that have been kind of lost in time. It was pretty wild. And there's a bunch more of these. But I'm only going to go over a couple. Here's another one. Half of you have probably already heard me say this because I've told the story a bazillion times. But you can see here, this is a battery bulwark here, and there's actually, you can see the mount that they had the cannon on right there. Pretty wild. And the last one I'm going to show, which if I can find it again. It's in Orwell. And it was a cellar hole. It was pretty wild. Let's see if I'm even sort of in the right area. A bunch of them here. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to come up with it. I haven't committed that one in memory, but it was a cellar hole that predated the De Beers Atlas. So it was pre-1850, and you could make out the center foundation for the chimney. Because they used to put chimneys in the center for the most part to heat the house better, and you could actually identify it. It's pretty wild. So that's just another testament to the accuracy of this stuff and what we can do with it now that we've not been able to do with it in the past. Okay, yeah, so here are some resources. Real quick, if you want to get a quick heads up, on ArcGIS Online Help, you can search for these two strings. And actually, if you just search on those, you'll see a bunch of other topics come up right below them, which will get you to, as this image demonstrates on the right, using ArcGIS services, all of a sudden you'll be able to see how to download data from a service, query an image service, and all that other stuff. And then down below on the YouTube channel, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's a bunch of webinars that have been recorded. Leslie did one, I think, on March 3rd, and the one Steve did, I think, was Steve did March 3rd, and I think Leslie did one a couple weeks earlier. But those would be really good resources to help round out your ability to add data and understand what's going on with services, and I think really help leverage all your workflows. So with that, I can't think of anything else. Really, maybe the primary thing is to go back to this slide about how you add the data. If you walked away from this webinar with nothing else other than to know how to successfully add this data, I'd be happy. So with that, Leslie, I'm going to turn it over to you, and if anybody has questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I did want to respond briefly to your mention of the step-by-step version of this, how to add data, and we actually don't have that on the website anymore. We kind of have replaced it with the how-to videos that you referred to. And actually, gotcha. I might briefly show people, because I forgot to mention this before, that here at our YouTube channel, we actually have a playlist. So if you go to the YouTube channel, and you'll see all the videos, but if you choose to look at the playlists we've created, one of them is about the Open Geodata portal, and you'll see listed over here, this has both finding data, downloading data, and connecting to services, which has the information about connecting to services, and then as Mike mentioned, Steve's video about both the portal and about kind of under the hood services. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, so this is your chance, everybody, to send in your questions. Actually, hold on, there was a question I just realized. Let me go back to read that for you. Okay. Pete asks, does the data extraction technique also work in ArcGIS Pro?
I have no idea. I haven't even cracked Open Pro yet, but so there's my mea culpa. I just don't know. I would imagine it would, only because how would they not create their next browser that doesn't support image services and map services, but I don't know. I could do a quick search online and help, and I bet I could find a version 10.5 Pro that basically outlines similar steps, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. Elizabeth asks, how many ArcGIS servers does Vermont have supporting Lidar image services? And is Vermont using an ArcGIS server multi-tier site? And is there a file server being used? Some background questions.
We have, well, we have virtual machines at the DII data center. We have a development server and we have a production server. So this is all being supported on our production server. So just one, I guess, is the answer. And I'm sorry, the other part about multi-tier.
Yeah, is Vermont using an ArcGIS server multi-tier site?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question. That's probably a Steve question or Ivan, the database administrator question. I should perhaps know as the backup sysadmin or the primary sysadmin, but I don't.
So I do not know the answer either, obviously, and unfortunately I was not able to watch Steve's webinar last week, but Elizabeth, if you didn't see that webinar, you might want to check that out, and at the very least just send our coworker Steve an email, and all of our contact information is on our website in the About VCGI section, so you can send him that question if you want to, since we don't know.
I mean, we do employ the ArcGIS web adapter, which does a reverse proxy from our demilitarized zone to the actual SQL server and ArcGIS SCE server. If that is a related question, I don't know. But so we do. That's a security and performance thing. I don't know if that's also referred to as multi-tier or not. I just not that familiar with it, but.
Okay, here's another question. Do you have documentation on how the different products are compiled and set up for publishing as image services?
Oh, yes, very much so. We have procedures that we write so that we know what we're doing the next time. And yeah, I did a heavy revision to the creating DEM Lidar image services. I got very schooled in the projection issue. There's multiple updated projections out there, and there's the composite transformations are what took me quite some time. But yes, we do have those. I haven't finalized the updates from some of the recent technical whoopings I've had, but I can finish that, and I think probably the next question would be, can we take a look at it? And sure, I think we'd be happy to share that, so that's not a problem.
And I just put the page that has our contact information on it, so Steve is the one to contact about just kind of our server questions, and then Mike, who is speaking right now and who just did the webinar, is the person to contact for that documentation on how we compiled put together the products into the services. Any other questions out there? And keep in mind that you can always send Mike an email later, although also keep in mind if you do that, you're taking away the time he's spending finishing up the services.
Oh, yeah, that's one thing I'll say is you're welcome to use these services as is for the moment. As I mentioned, we are still putting the final touches on it. And yeah, the worst possible phone call or email is one about a service that we haven't published yet, because then I spend time answering the question instead of finishing the service for everybody else to use. So that's one caveat I would throw out there.
Yeah, and keep in mind that I think Mike's point about the fact that it's going to be a couple more weeks until these new services are finalized just means things might go up and down. They might suddenly not be available, and they might change. As he said, he's going to be adding in the Windham County data. So yeah, if you notice that kind of thing, don't bother to call and tell us, because we know. And we're working on it. And there will be a formal announcement via the listserv and social media. And after that formal announcement is made, that means we feel that it's finalized. And hopefully you'll find that it doesn't change so much after that.
Yeah, the Hawaiians have a good saying where it goes, mahalo for your kokua, which just means thanks for your cooperation on that.
We all say that to all of you every day. So.
Yeah, mahalo, mahalo.
Okay, I think that's it.
Thanks.
We don't have any more questions. Thank you very much, Mike.
All right, great. Thanks, folks, and hope this data really helps your workflow. And if you come across any cool features that you see in the Hillshade or the DEM services, and feel like sending me a graphic with a paragraph or sentence or two, that really helps me continue to advocate for Lidar. So, and plus, I like to see how it's being used. That would be great.
Great. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. And this is recorded, and it'll be posted within a day or two. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.